2012 Cup champion Brad Keselowski finished last year strong, but broke his leg slipping on ice this offseason.
One step. That's all it took. One completely ordinary step on an icy parking lot, and suddenly a NASCAR season shifted before it even had a chance to begin. No roaring engines, no concrete walls, no on-track chaos. Just a quiet winter morning that turned a championship-caliber year into a waiting game nobody saw coming. For months, everything had been lining up for Brad Keselowski. The former Cup champion had finished the previous season trending upward, momentum finally swinging back toward the number 6 camp. As both driver and co-owner of RFK Racing, optimism wasn't just talk. It was reflected in performance, preparation, and confidence. Then, without warning, the offseason delivered a curveball no amount of experience could avoid. It wasn't a crash, it wasn't a test session gone wrong, and it wasn't a racing injury at all. On December 18, during a family ski trip, Keselowski dropped his daughter off for lessons, parked his car, and stepped onto a patch of ice. One slip, one fall, and in an instant, the largest bone in his body snapped, the femur. The pain hit immediately, and it was worse than anything he'd ever experienced inside a race car. Emergency surgery followed in Boone, North Carolina. Doctors stabilized the break with titanium hardware, reinforcing the bone, but leaving behind a brutal reality. Keselowski had broken fingers, wrists, ribs, ankles, even his nose before. None of it compared. A femur break isn't just painful, it shuts everything down. Recovery timelines look neat on paper, but racing doesn't live on paper. It lives in G-forces, reaction time, and trust in your body at 190 miles per hour. At first glance, the math almost worked. 8 to 12 weeks is standard recovery. The clash at Bowman Gray Stadium fell right on the edge of that window. The Daytona 500 sat just beyond it. Technically possible, practically risky, and for someone who isn't just driving but also responsible for the direction of the entire organization, technically possible wasn't good enough. Keselowski didn't want to roll the dice. He didn't want to show up with zero testing, zero margin for error, and hope adrenaline carried him through. That's not how championship teams think. That's how seasons derail. So the decision was made quietly and then announced publicly. He would miss the season-opening clash. That alone raised eyebrows, but what truly set the NASCAR world buzzing was what came next. RFK Racing didn't leave the seat open. Instead, they turned to Corey LaJoie to pilot the flagship number 6 Ford at Bowman Gray. For longtime fans, it landed like a thunderclap. LaJoie isn't a household superstar. He isn't someone casual fans circle on prediction sheets. His Cup career has been built largely in underfunded equipment, grinding for results that rarely matched the effort behind them. But context matters, and Bowman Gray, better known as the Madhouse, is anything but a normal track. It's a tight quarter-mile bull ring that thrives on chaos, experience, and survival instincts more than raw speed. LaJoie knows it. He's won there before. He understands how that place demands patience one moment and aggression the next. And suddenly, he wasn't just showing up. He was showing up in playoff-level equipment. For LaJoie, this wasn't a fill-in role. It was a spotlight moment, a chance most drivers in his position never get. He's a third-generation racer, grandson of a Hall of Famer, son of a two-time Xfinity champion. But pedigree doesn't guarantee opportunity. Equipment does. And for once, those two things finally aligned. The pressure is enormous. A mid-pack driver stepping into one of RFK's best cars for the sport's most unpredictable exhibition race isn't just driving, it's auditioning. Every restart, every corner, every bumper tap tells the industry something. This is the kind of moment that can reshape how a career is viewed. And here's where the story quietly becomes much bigger. LaJoie isn't just driving the clash, he's standing by. If Keselowski isn't medically cleared in time, LaJoie could find himself lined up for the Daytona 500. That's the detail most people glossed over, but it's the one that changes everything. Keselowski hasn't missed the points-paying Cup race since 1909, more than 580 consecutive starts, 15 years of climbing into a car no matter the circumstances. The Clash doesn't threaten that streak. Daytona does. And Daytona isn't just another race, it's the crown jewel, the race drivers dream about as kids, the one that defines legacies. Meanwhile, rehab hasn't slowed. Keselowski has been grinding through 6 to 8 hours of recovery work every single day with specialists from Atrium Health. Progress has been steady, but the injury carried an added complication that made things far more complex. When the break happened, sensation from his knee to his hip vanished. The quadriceps went numb. Nerve damage entered the picture. That's not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous behind the wheel. Throttle control, brake pressure, steering input, everything depends on feedback from your body. Slowly, feeling has been returning. Strength is coming back. He's nearly walking unassisted now, nearly lifting the leg under his own power. Massive progress compared to those first days after surgery. But recovery doesn't move on a schedule NASCAR fans can predict. Then came a moment of perspective that few expected. As Keselowski was lying in an ambulance, dealing with overwhelming pain, his phone began buzzing. News was spreading about a serious plane incident involving Greg Biffle, a close friend and fellow NASCAR veteran. In that moment, the scale shifted. Pain didn't disappear, but perspective kicked in. Problems felt smaller compared to how much worse things could be. That mindset matters. It's what separates champions from competitors. Even flat on his back, Keselowski wasn't focused on frustration. He was focused on perspective, and then on the next target. Everything now leads to one moment, February 5th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. NASCAR's medical evaluation, a closed test, limited laps. Doctors watching closely. 3 questions will decide it all. Can he physically operate the car? Can he endure the full race distance? And can he do it safely for himself and everyone else on track? If the answer to any of those is no, the decision will be made for him. RFK leadership has remained cautiously optimistic. Simulator sessions are underway, spirits are high, confidence hasn't wavered. But confidence doesn't override biology. The mind might be ready, the body still has to prove it. For Keselowski, missing the Daytona 500 would sting deeply, not just for points, but for meaning. At 41 years old, windows don't stay open forever. He's talked openly about racing into his late 40s, and this injury won't change that plan. But it's a reminder of how fragile racing seasons really are. Sometimes they don't end with crashes. Sometimes they're altered by a sheet of ice in a parking lot. Now the NASCAR world waits. LaJoie prepares for Bowman Gray, knowing the opportunity in front of him might be only the beginning. Keselowski pushes through rehab, counting days, not weeks, toward the moment he can climb back into the number 6 car. And fans are left watching a story that's no longer just about a broken leg. It's about how fast everything can change. It's about a journeyman standing on the edge of his biggest moment. And it's about one medical test that will decide whether a champion reclaims his seat or whether a fairy tale gets one more chapter on the sport's biggest stage.